What if I told you that a guy who brought a abandoned mine back into production and built into a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Great Panther. Great Panther. Great Panther. The Recompensa vein was reopened in January 2009. Great Panther Silver buys Mexican properties for $1.5 million. Llegó a un acuerdo de opción con la canadiense Great Panther Silver Limited para venderle el complejo minero.
Is back at it. That is exactly what Bob Archer is doing. And he's doing it in basically the same area, same playbook. And what I really like about that is financing and dilution is one of the biggest drags on performance when investing in junior miners. And this basically allows you to build an empire just with existing cash flow. So that's why I love that investment case. Short disclaimer here, you should all know my biases. I'm producing this video in MK Investment Conference and I'm paid for that. But I do own shares myself in the company. And that's the story of many mines. But let's just do a rough calculation of what Pinnacle could be. I mean, let's assume they can sell the gold for 2,000 per ounce. And it's pretty likely that if they get this done, they might be able to produce 12,000 ounces. So 2,000 times 12,000, I mean, this would leave us with 24 million per year in earnings. I mean, at what multiple do those companies trade? So I think it's pretty decent to say that you could do 10 times price earnings, right? I mean, the big mines are trading at 30, 40. And this would give us, it's an easy calculation, right? I mean, this would give us 240 million enterprise value. And we're talking not about 230, we're talking about 27, or 28. This is when this might be there already. And what's the market cap of the company right now? Probably around 10 million. So if we look at the value of the company, I mean, this with a 10 times PE that here, I mean that's incredible. That is 24x. I mean, obviously there's gonna be some dilution on the way, but I mean that's awesome dynamics. I mean, I'm not saying that this is gonna come like this, but I'm saying that this is definitely possible, and this is basically how the game worked for Bob with Great Panther. And there's many mines close by, and I think it's a feasible story. And that's the investment case that I see in Pinnacle Gold and Silver. I think they have a legitimate shot at getting there. Anyway, let's look at how I look at those kind of companies. So the sector is clear. The company's in the business of resource exploration, which is basically fancy word for finding metals in the ground and preparing everything that's needed in order to get it back into production. And so this company is kind of moving fast here because we're in a project that used to be a mine already. Let's look at the stage. So Pinnacle currently is in the stage of testing the deposit of the old mine, more specifically in the so-called advanced exploration. But as you've already heard, they might be a developer soon, or hopefully a producer too. And by late 2027, which is pretty short timeline for the junior mining sector, because usually it takes 10 years and longer to get something into production. But here we got a case where cash flow might come very, very soon. But more on the milestones later. They've got 3 projects in total. So they've got the Norwich British project, the Argosy Gold Mine project, and both are in Ontario, Canada. They're located in the Red Lake Mining Division in northeastern Ontario. Within 12 kilometers, there's the Springpole Gold Deposit, which currently is developed by First Mining Gold. So this is a really, really good location. But for me personally, those two, they're not part of the investment case. They might be a source of cash infusion if that's needed, and if that is a better way to go forward than to raise money and avoid dilution for investors. My investment case is the restart of the abandoned mine from the El Potrero project, and the value contribution of the metals, I'd say, is probably 80% gold, 20% silver. But why do I think a restart is possible? I think that's the most important question to ask. The stats for getting a mine into production usually is pretty low, right? But I think this is really the background from the key person here. That's the main reason why I believe that this really is possible. And this is the founder and CEO, Bob Archer. He proved that he can do that. And he's just done it before. And I cannot state it better than the Wikipedia article that I found on that. That is outlining what he did with his prior company, which was called Great Panther. And Great Panther became a metal producer and listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange in 2006 after his restructuring, in which Robert Archer took over as chief executive officer and acquired and returned several dormant silver gold mines in Mexico back into production. Sounds similar? Yeah, because it is. It's the same story, just a few kilometers away, and basically same playbook, and as I said, his old playground in Mexico.
I'm actually rebuilding the team that from people that we had working at Great Panther, in past years, and
so basically rebuilding the team that exactly acted on the same story.
Yeah, exactly. These are people that have all the right experience to do what we need to do, and so it's great to be able to draw on people like that. And 100% of our people in Mexico are Mexican. We don't have any expats working there at all, and that's really important from the point of view of the local communities, from the governments, whether it's municipal right up through to federal. They're going to look at that.
Let's talk a bit about the goal and the strategy. The goal is clear. We want to get a portfolio of mines that run, right? But there's a most important milestone to get there is to get the first mine back into production, that we have the cash flow to actually buy other abandoned mines and bring those into production without diluting us shareholders. But what are the exact steps to get there? This is what I want to know from Bob. First, we're awaiting the decision if you actually need a permit for underground drilling or not.
Right.
I kind of assume that we probably don't need one. That's my personal opinion. I don't know.
Well, it's ours too, but the authorities have to agree with us. So ultimately, they're the ones that make the decision. Yeah.
And then we actually can do. So we're getting approvals hopefully soon. We do the drilling pretty soon, and then for the drilling we had to do some construction, or was that already for the mine?
It's not really. I wouldn't use the word construction. It's like rehabilitation would be a better word. Just going in and making sure that the areas are safe for the guys.
How much drilling we have to do before we want to restart the mine?
Well, a lot of that will have to do with the overall permitting, and I think we'll want to see that the plant and the reconstruction of the plant is going ahead. And then, we'll pull the trigger on the actual mine development. And it could well be that we're able to do a little bit of mining and just stockpiling. When the plant is ready for production, then we'll have a stockpile of ore to be able to feed through it. It's still fairly early days, but I'm quite confident that we'll be able to do all of that as we go.
Okay, then last important milestone before you actually can start is getting the permit for the mine. When do you think could that realistically happen?
There are actually multiple permits that are required.
What kind of permits do you have to get?
Well, for even before anything really gets started, we'll need a permit to rebuild the camp. We will need water permits for mining and for the plant and for drilling. Once we start mining, we'll need an explosives permit. You have to look at whether there's going to be any sort of hazardous waste generated. You need permits for that, and water discharge, as well as bringing in water, and so it's all broken down. So we're already starting to work on all of those, and we're prioritizing them, ourselves, and then putting it all in a timeline. Ours, Potrero, is going to be a small underground operation, so a much smaller footprint, and really, very little impact on the environment, especially, as I say, given that it's already a disturbed site anyways. When we took our environmental consultant in there for the first time back in June, I mean, he just got out of the truck and he looked around and he just says, yeah, this is all secondary growth, all the vegetation and everything. He says, this is not primary. And so you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't fall under the Forestry Act or whatever. You can just go ahead and clean this up and, get it ready.
I'm not a geologist, so I cannot say anything about if a geologist actually is a proper fit for that job here. But to me, it seems about right. And I think most important thing that I can look at this from my side is what are the incentives for people to actually move forward. And this is one of my favorite parts. There's clear messages that you can take from actions that are happening. So for example, one thing, there's lots of insider buying in the market by the CEO, by Bob himself, and other investors. And the good thing is, if you look at how much management actually gets the salaries, in the last financial statements that I saw, it was less than 100K a year. And Bob is buying himself shares in the market. So if he would go work for some other company, he could get paid way more. He's definitely worth more than 100K in a year, and he's putting more money from himself on the line. So like, that is exactly what I want to see, and this is probably the biggest sign that you can get if you don't know anything about a company or a project. We've heard a lot about the goal and the strategy on how to get there, but obviously we need also the financials to move it there. So let's look at how all the milestones that we've seen go hand in hand with the cash that we actually have at hand. Because I mean, this is the driver, and this is my investment case where I said, okay, we might bring this back into production without a lot of shareholder dilution by actually having cash flow soon that can fund this whole thing. Okay, so for timelines, cash and milestones, I would like kind of trying to fix that together. Right
now, I mean, sort of high level estimates that we've done for the reconstruction of the plant is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 million US. So fairly modest amount. And then add another $1 million or so for the rehabilitation of the mine. So roughly maybe $3 million in terms of the capital expenditures, and throw in maybe another $1 million or $2 million just for operating expenditures, working capital, that type of thing. So somewhere in that sort of maybe $4 to $5 million range is what we're anticipating to really get things back up and running, and we think that we can probably fund that through an advance on an offtake agreement with one of the metal traders. We've had some preliminary discussions. I have relationships with those types of groups from my past years at Great Panther. You mentioned drilling, so we're not going out to drill off a huge resource or anything like that. We're not looking for a 10-year mine life, or we want to get into production as quickly as we can, and if the plant's going to be roughly 100 tons per day, that's kind of ballpark what we're looking at right now, then, we just have to look at, okay, how many tons are we going to need, for, say, a 3-year program, because under the way the agreement is staged, we get 50% as soon as we start production. A year later, we can go to 70%, and the year after that, we can go to 100%. So we really only need 2 years of full production in order to get to 100% and pay down all the cash payments to the vendor and that type of thing. So that's right now, if I could get to like a 2-3 year mine life initially, and then we would continue drilling from the proceeds of production then we can expand the resource as we go, which is a common approach in vein type deposits, anyways. And then that's sort of the approach that we're taking. So we just want to get enough to really pull the trigger, to justify pulling the trigger and getting this going.
Yeah, for that kind of cash flow that we're looking at, 5 million in investing doesn't sound like a lot to me.
Well, once we get to 100%, but initially with 50%, we'd be half of that, right? And then just working up from there. But even at half of that, for a small company like ours to have 12 million in profit, in your first year, I mean, it's just that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just compared current market cap, and then if you have like the 24 million earnings, and if you're trading it like a 10x multiple, that's I don't know if that's too high or not. It depends on the mine life.
Right. Yeah, it probably would be, but still, it's whatever number you choose, it's going to be a lot higher than we are right now.
Yeah, looking at those kind of scenarios, combining the milestones and the cash, I think that is a pretty good bet on hopefully be part of something that can fund itself and grow itself by cash flow, which is a pretty rare thing in the industry. And this is what I really like about that case.